Welcome to the BSC IT Semester 5 Internet of Things Practical video demonstration. Today we are going to discuss practical number 1, which is starting Raspbian OS, that is operating system, familiarizing with Raspberry Pi components and the interfaces, connecting to the internet or Ethernet, monitor and USB. Here are the components of Raspberry Pi. In fact, these are the interfaces of the Raspberry Pi through which you can connect different components to it. For example, these are the USB ports. This is the Ethernet connectivity, audio jack, HDMI port, 5-volt power supply, GPIO pins, and many other different peripheral interfaces are there. This is the board pinout, GPIO pinout diagram. These pinout diagrams are important because we are going to program these pins for Raspberry Pi. This is how the programming Raspberry Pi Python IDE will look like. So here I will be demonstrating how to connect Raspberry Pi microcontroller to the different peripheral devices. So this is the Raspberry Pi microcontroller with 40 GPIO pins, 2x2 USB ports, a LAN connector, or call it as Ethernet connector, 3.5 mm audio jack, HDMI for display, powering up, so that is power connection. Here it is the micro SD card. You can use this micro SD card to load the operating system of this Raspberry Pi microcontroller. This is the casing outside the microcontroller. It is always good to use casing for a microcontroller to keep your microcontroller safe. So here I will be showing you how to connect this microcontroller to the different peripherals. So very first thing, you can connect this mouse and keyboard, USB mouse and keyboards, to these USB ports. So this way you can connect mouse and the keyboard to all this. You can also connect pen drive to these slots. Then you can connect the Ethernet cable or internet connection through this Ethernet cable. You can also connect this Raspberry Pi with Wi-Fi connection as well. I will be demonstrating that also very soon. For the display purpose, you can connect this HDMI. If your display is not having this HDMI port, you can use this converter HDMI to VGA. So if your display monitor having VGA connector, you can connect this through this VGA cable. This is the connector. Or if you have the monitor with HDMI connector, you can use just the HDMI cable. So insert this here this way, and then this VGA to the monitor. I will be demonstrating that also very soon. Then this is the USB power cable that comes with Raspberry Pi microcontroller. You can connect this to 230-volt power supply, and the another end is to be connected to the Raspberry Pi microcontroller this way. Further, you can connect these GPIO pins to the breadboard. So this is the breadboard. you're going to install or you're going to design your circuitry here onto this breadboard, and you're going to program all these components which you're going to place here on this breadboard through this GPIO pins. So if you're going to use these GPIO pins directly to the breadboard, you can connect these, you can use this female to male jumper wires. See, these are female to male jumper wires. So how to connect them? So for example, if I want the GPIO pin, this second pin, which is actually a plus 5 voltage positive plus VCC pin, so you can insert it this way. This is the female side connector, and you can connect it to this breadboard this way. But the problem with this may be handling these GPIO pins directly with the bare body. These pins may get damaged. So a better idea to use this P connector. This T connector comes with this connector. This is connector with all 40 pin slots. Look at the notch, how you're going to insert this complete component into this pins. So this notch should be on this side, and connect these GPIO pins to this like this way. So now all the functionality of those 40 pins is being carried by this wires, and they all are here. You don't even need to remember what is the pin number and what those pin does. Like I said, the first pin is plus, this is the first pin, this is the second pin, this is also a plus voltage, this is also that plus voltage, this is first pin, second pin, third pin, fourth pin, and so on. So this is the last pin, 40th number pin. Now these are the pins as with the board given, and here the pin numbers or the pin specifications are given are according to the BCM pin out structure. So we will be discussing about this also, what is about BCM pin out structure. Then the next is, if you want this to be connected with different components, now you can use this plus 5 voltage like this way. Here this is the ground pin, this you can connect it here, and this you can connect it here. Now this whole horizontal line got the positive connection, and this whole horizontal line got the ground or negative connection. So if you want to just glue an LED using this plus 5 voltage and the ground pin, you can simply use LED. Now this is the LED. This LED has two legs. The leg which is longer in length and smaller in terms of filament is the positive side, and the other side is the negative side. So you can insert this LED like this, and then you can derive this positive voltage to the LED's positive side. Now you can insert this pin anywhere in this horizontal line, you'll get the positive of this, and this way you're giving positive to the LED. Similarly, if you want to connect the negative side or the ground of the LED, you can simply connect this here, because the LED's second terminal is on in this line. These pins or these holes act vertically, these holes are connected horizontally, these holes are connected vertically. So as this is the negative line, you can connect anywhere, and this is how your circuit will be complete. Now this was just a demonstration how to connect the circuit. Very soon I will be showing you how this circuit works. So if I'm going to power up this Raspberry Pi, this LED will glow. So you see, this is how the LED is glowing, because we have extended the Raspberry Pi all 40 pins through this to this T connector. This was the positive, this was the ground of this Raspberry Pi microcontroller. You see, this whole line has got the positive side, so even if I'm going to connect it anywhere, this is going to be the positive. So you have to check for all the holes. Probably some holes may not be working properly, but this whole line will get the positive connection. So maybe from here these holes are not working properly, but otherwise you can test it at your end that this whole line will get the positive line. Similarly, in this, for this ground also, this whole horizontal line has got a ground connection. So check almost for all these holes. So this way a simple LED can be used. Simple LED glowing program or glowing circuitry can be shown with this Raspberry Pi microcontroller. Furthermore, we are also going to see how this microcontroller is connected to the display and how the programming of this microcontroller can be done. So this is the microcontroller connected with a LAN cable and an HDMI connector. This is the HDMI connector, and this is the monitor, which is also having the HDMI connector. So this way you can connect the HDMI to HDMI. You can make the HDMI to HDMI connections directly. So if I'm going to power up this microcontroller with this USB power supply, so in this way powering up will display the operating system on the monitor. So this operating system is being loaded. So operating system is loading on a TV monitor. Similarly, I'll also show that how this interface can be also viewed at using your laptop screen using VNC viewer. So this way your Raspberry Pi is or can be displayed at the TV monitor. This is the mouse, which is already connected in a USB slot to this microcontroller. So I can use this mouse to operate on this screen. So this way it is going to be used. So it has also the Wi-Fi connectivity. You can connect it to your Wi-Fi. Right now it is connected to the Wi-Fi. You can also use Ethernet connectivity or Wi-Fi, and you can use internet connectivity on this Raspberry Pi. So here I'm going to tell you how to connect your Raspberry Pi microcontroller to your laptop or desktop computer screen. To do that, you should first know the IP address of your Raspberry Pi microcontroller. Remember, your Raspberry Pi microcontroller needs to be connected to the same Wi-Fi with which your laptop or a desktop computer is connected. So to start with, type here advanced IP scanner. This advanced IP scanner will provide you this ID where you can click on this scan button to scan the different devices on your LAN network. So this will scan all the devices which are there on the same LAN network. So it will take a while to search the different devices on your network. So you see, you got this Raspberry Pi connected on this network. The IP address of this Raspberry Pi is 192.168.43.165. To access this, you need VNC viewer. So type VNC and you will get this application. So click and open. Now already I have connected my Raspberry Pi microcontroller using this VNC viewer. So this is my device which I used to connect. So you can click directly on this, but as you will be doing it newly, you have to click on file, click on new connection, click here the IP address of your microcontroller which you have just searched. So it was 192.168.43. Let me just check. 192.168.43.165. So here it is the IP address. The identifier name in the email type right now I'm writing ARDI. Click OK. So this will be created. So now if you want to access this Raspberry Pi microcontroller with the given IP address, we have just made a new connection. You have to just double click on it, and here the username for, by default the username for all the Raspberry Pis are Pi, Pi, and the password is Raspberry. I have changed my password. You can change your password. So and I have used my password. If you have not changed it, the default will be Raspberry, all small capitals, small letters. So click on OK, and this is how you will be able to access the Raspberry Pi screen. So this way you can use the laptop screen for your Raspberry Pi microcontroller. From here in Raspberry Pi configuration option, you can change the password. So you see here the change password. So you can use here any password that you want to write. So you can enter the new password whichever you would like to use and click OK. So here is the blinking LED pattern program. I am executing this module. So on the Python command it will be like LED on off, and on the circuits the output will be shown in this way. In my next practical video demonstration, I am going to explain this program and how to connect this circuit so that blinking LED pattern program can be done. Thank you for watching this video. So then this is the files and the folders in which you can explore different files that you must have stored or you will be storing further. So this way you can use the environment or operating system of Raspberry Pi. If you want to program this Raspberry Pi, you have to click on this programming and this Python 3 ID. So by doing that, it will give you this ID to write the Python program. If you want to write, this is where you can pass the commands, Python commands, and if you want to write a new program, you can click on new file. So here in this text editor, you can enter your code, or if you have already written a program and that is there on the directory, you can simply click on open and you can click any one of this program that you have already stored this way, and this will open the program. If you want to execute this program, click on run module, and this way this will be executed. Now when this Raspberry Pi is going to be connected to the circuit will also show this output on those LEDs.